everyone, and welcome to the I90 Aerospace Conference and Expo. I'm Haley Houston with the Idaho Manufacturing Alliance and Forging Futures Idaho, a nonprofit that focuses on promoting awareness of manufacturing and creating connections to rewarding career opportunities. We would like to take the time to thank INWAC, our panelists, and our sponsors for helping us put together the first I90 conference for students. Today's event will feature some incredible panelists discussing the outlook of aerospace manufacturing in our region, the diverse occupations and backgrounds that make up the manufacturing and aerospace manufacturing industry, and more, culminating with a special session featuring distinguished women in the field. At the end of the event, we will be giving away a UAV kit donated by Mind's Eye to one of the classrooms in attendance. Thank you to Mind's Eye for your generous donation. And stick around until the closing session where Noe will announce the winner. Kicking off today's event will be Dean Cameron from the Northwest Aerospace News magazine, covering the importance of the aerospace industry in our region and the outlook for the future workforce. Dean has a 30-year history in commercial aerospace manufacturing prior to beginning the Northwest Aerospace News magazine. His background has helped him bring much needed attention to the manufacturers that provide the backbone of the aerospace industry. Dean enjoys spending time with his family, art collecting, and occasionally fly fishing when he can sneak away. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dean and let him impart some aerospace knowledge to you all.
Well, thank you for the introduction. A little bit of history. I have like Haley said, 30-year career in commercial aerospace manufacturing, mostly in interiors. And so over that span of time, we've had the pleasure of being involved in the design and development of interior components for about every airframe you can think of. My first project was for a 747 for China Air and United Airlines. And we've worked on 747, 767, 757, 737 and 777, 787. And so it's been an extremely exciting time in the industry for me to work with all of these companies in the development of their interiors. And so at a point in time, I decided that it was time to end that part of my career in my life. But then started Northwest Aerospace News, which has brought me into numerous other industries. And let me tell you, as exciting as my career has been, you young people are on the cusp of the most exciting time in aerospace history. It's not just about the existing airframes. You have new space technology. You have boosters that are landing themselves. You have unmanned aircraft and the drone industry that is in its infancy, along with eco-fuel technology, electric aircraft technology. All of these things are in their infancy, and you have the opportunity to be that significant impact in the next 5, 10, 15 years in an industry that's going to be significantly changed from where it's been. I mean, up until now, you put fuel in an airplane, and whether it's a jet engine or a prop, it's not a whole lot different than the Wright brothers. You're entering a time in which the aerospace industry is going to go through changes like it's never been seen before. And that's going to require the engineering expertise, the manufacturing expertise to be able to accomplish what's needed in that new and growing market. It's a huge paradigm shift in the aerospace industry as a whole. And so that being said, the Pacific Northwest is really the epicenter for that opportunity. We have SpaceX, we have Boeing, we have In Situ, we have Blue Origin. All of these companies are going to need the resources to be able to accomplish the growing needs for those industries. And along with that, the marketplace has been prepared for you, basically. Along with the growth in that industry, there has been significant changes because of the last year and a half. A large part of the workforce has retired or been furloughed or gone to other industries. And now we're starting to see the recovery of the industry like we've never seen before. And the workforce requirements are going to be amazing. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to share a PowerPoint, kind of give you an idea of the manufacturing opportunities and the companies that are here in the Pacific Northwest that will help be a part of that supply chain. I'll go ahead and share my screen. And let's see here. And we will go full screen on that. As soon as I figure out how to do it. Can everybody see my screen okay?
It looks good, Dean.
Okay. All right. So the regional organization called INWAC stands for Inland Northwest Aerospace Consortium. And I was fortunate to be one of the early participants in this organization. And it basically developed because we have a large group of companies that support the aerospace industry in about every manufacturing discipline you can think of. And knowing that we're stronger when we're united, a group of companies came together of all of these different disciplines to say, how can we offer the industry a one voice opportunity with shared resources and single point of contact, no matter what the skill set is. I was fortunate to be the sales manager dealing with international companies in the plastics industry, primarily in heavy gauge thermoforming and also a contract sewing facility. But every other discipline in the need of manufacturing aircraft, which you'll see here in a minute, is represented in a pretty small diameter circle in the Pacific Northwest. And so INWAC is a group of certified aerospace manufacturers and service providers located in the Inland Northwest. The goal to continue to grow our network from central Washington to central Montana and service the industry with high value finished and tested sub-assemblies. And that's a good point, because a lot of these companies, a lot of the aerospace companies don't just want to buy a part, they want to buy an assembly. And our company, as well as a couple others, were known as integrators, which meant they pretty much received the large contract to provide the assembly. However, not all of those resources were produced in-house. And so we had to outsource to the metal finishing companies or a machine shop or an electronics firm or something, and be able to provide that finished assembly so that all they had to do was install, rather than to have to set up a separate manufacturing cell to put all the components together. So again, that's going to require manufacturing resources, and it's going to require engineering resources. We've kind of gone over this, but INWAC's mission is to develop those relationships and facilitate providers in the Inland Northwest and being an integrated supply chain throughout the region. The value proposition: certified manufacturing, service and supply chain network, single point of contact and program management. Like I said, the integrators would deal with all of the sub-tiers, providing a full turnkey solution. Diverse manufacturing, value engineering services, strategically located for speed, cost, expertise, quality, and service. We're having a conference right now that you're a part of called the I90 conference. And that I90 designation is not an accident, because a lot of these companies even from the West Coast all the way through central Montana along the I90 corridor, the transportation is straightforward. The ability to move product and components between companies is much easier than trying to distribute in a broader spans. And so that networking with these regional companies is a substantial value to the larger companies. This is to give you an idea of the companies within our region that provide components towards the manufacturing of an aircraft. And obviously, we don't have time to go through each and every one of those, but to make the point that you can hardly go on an airplane of any type, of any airline, and walk through it and not have some component on that aircraft touched by our region. And the Washington State Department of Commerce recently sent out some statistics, and the I-90 corridor is the 5th largest, what's known as an aerospace cluster of companies in the United States. Well, we became that way because in the 90s, there was a huge boom in the electronics. Most of you guys weren't even born yet. But there was a huge boom in electronics industry, and a lot of companies were built around that. When the electronics industries went offshore or to Mexico, there was a pretty significant void in the workload in these manufacturing companies, which then migrated to a growing aerospace industry. And so we have grown into one of the most significant regions in the support of aerospace manufacturing, like I say, in the United States. Believe it or not, I had a hand in helping to design this interior that you see, a first-class interior for Lufthansa. But it involves injection molding, thermoforming, precision sheet metal machining, contract sewing, electronics, and the companies that participated in the manufacture of this. Off the top of my head, in just the Spokane Coeur d'Alene region, there was at least 7 or 8 companies in our region that went into producing this Lufthansa aircraft interior. Now, in the aerospace industry, you're required to be certified to certain quality standards. Most companies will meet or attempt to meet an AS9100 certification. But you'll see in the metal industry, NADCAP, ITAR is not really a certification, it's a standard basically for keeping information private and typically in government work. Some of the products that are manufactured, this is a sheet metal component, and that there's companies here right in this region that manufacture complex sheet metal assemblies for housings. They do all of not only the bending and the components and the assembly and the metal finishing and the painting, but a lot of times even install the electronics. And so this again, from an engineering services standpoint, is either developed by the company that's doing the primary amount of work for this, or it's sublet by one of the companies in the region. Rapid prototyping. There's companies right in this region that take advantage of 3D printing, SLA, stereolithography, urethane casting, CNC machining. When we would work on an aircraft interior, there were several levels of manufacturing. There was a design review, so we would manufacture prototypes to make sure that when they went to do the assembly and the components would go together and work properly, so that you weren't hard tooling to develop something and then find out it didn't work, and then you'd have to go back to square one. So there's several levels of development that is required for the manufacturing, again, mostly provided here in this region. Assembly work, we talked about that. There are resources here to, this is something that companies look for, supplier managed inventory, made to order, complex electromechanical, say that 3 times fast, assembly and testing. And here's a gentleman here that's working on a component, and he's testing to make sure the electronics work as they're designed. Machine shops. the technology that's going into CNC machining today is unlike anything. You know, I came from an era where we had drafting boards, T-squares, and a designer that was drawing on a 2D drawing, where now everything is 3D CAD designed. CNC machining centers are able to produce from a single block of aluminum to a finished part without having to change tools or change setups. It's amazing to be able to watch what the equipment and the capabilities are today. And it's more than just machining. As I said, it's really the design and the development of this new age in aerospace. Most of the machining and the development work is going to be on new components, new opportunities in the industry. And so it's a really exciting time to be a part of it. Plastics, injection molding, thermoforming, that's the industry that I came from. Knowing the standards of the materials from a flammability, toxicity, what materials will stand up to what type of abuse. It's more complicated than you might think, and it's also very exciting to sit down with a group of engineers and see a pencil sketch basically of that laboratory and work to develop, you know, how the parts work, what materials to use, how they fit together. You know, this overhead panel. I'll tell you a quick story. There's a design company over in Seattle, and because of COVID and air travel safety, they've designed an overhead panel that is an air blade. And so instead of that little round nozzle blowing air in your face, it's going to blow a shield of air between you and the passenger next to you. And so anything, any kind of bad germs or anything else is shielded from between you and the passenger, and then taken down to the floor where the air is evacuated and then recycled through HEPA filters to go back in the aircraft. The air in a passenger commercial jet is the safest. It's safer than a hospital. It is the most pure air. When somebody says they caught a cold on the airplane, they may have caught it at the airport, but they didn't get it on the airplane. It's one of the safest places that you can be. Sheet metal, forming, bending, riveting, designing, welding. There's a company here in Liberty Lake. We recently produced a video for a conference that it's absolutely amazing, the automation that goes into the development and building of a component that you see here. It's unlike anything that, 10 years ago, how they would have manufactured that component. And so if you haven't had the chance to visit a facility, a modern manufacturing facility, I think you'd be amazed to see the complexity that goes into the manufacturing of these components. Composites, composite manufacturing. There's a company that I've had the pleasure of knowing since they basically just started, and they just won an award, an international award for their composites technology. Company's called Continuous Composites in Coeur d'Alene. And if you get a chance to look them up, they basically are reinventing how composite parts are made. Again, it's your industry. The things that are going to be happening in the aerospace industry, in new space and commercial aerospace, it's your time. It's your industry. The things that are happening now, the new technology is in its infancy, and the development and the application use of it is going to happen in your generation. Other processes, heat treating. I recently did a couple of videos for heat treating companies here in Spokane and in Portland. And that's a requirement for metal components that are on an aircraft. They have to be hardened, heat treated, and have to meet a certain specification. Coating and finishing, there's a number of companies, whether it be anodizing or chem film or painting or powder coating. These are all resources, again, in the greater Northwest area that are going to need that help. And one thing to note, all of these processes that I'm sharing with you, these are not minimum wage jobs. These are career opportunities. These are jobs that pay well, and you're a part of the development and the creation of new components and a significant impact. Again, I mentioned we were involved, had a contract sewing facility. So all of the crew dividers, class dividers, curtain assemblies on aircraft, a lot of that was manufactured right here in Spokane. Companies that do injection molding and sheet metal oftentimes have the printing capabilities within their facilities. And so whether it's pad printing or screen printing or laser etching, again, these are all resources that are typically included in the manufacturing facilities that support the majority of the manufacturing, like this GPS unit that you see here on the screen. PSU panels, we talked about that a little bit ago. There's new technology in these PSU panels, but you'll see that this panel right here is an injection mold panel, but there's metal sub-assemblies that are also manufactured at this facility in-house. There are electronics and subcomponents that are purchased and installed at this facility. So when they ship this to a client, they literally just install it. It's a finished component, and that's really the direction the industry has taken, which is a lot of fun because you're dealing with all of these different manufacturing skill sets. And from an engineering standpoint, you have to be, you have to carry a certain amount of knowledge. It's not just a purchase type thing. You have to understand what's needed, the stresses, application, you know, basically tolerances, how that matches up with the plastics. It's an exciting opportunity. It's fun. This is a design lab. I was actually fortunate to be involved in the reveal of this. It was a 737 project with a lab where they designed it so that the airline would be able to put an extra row of seats and therefore increase their revenue. Most of this lab is manufactured in the Spokane Liberty Lake area. And so this is the example of the rear lab, but there are 3 on a 737, and the forward first class lab and the 2 in the rear. All of those manufactured, majority of the manufacturing done in the Spokane region. And I was, like I say, fortunate to be involved in the reveal and a lot of the design conversations with this company. Seating, a lot of the manufacturers in this region have their hand in seating, whether it's the machine metal base that you see, the injection mold plastics, the sewn seat backs, subcomponents, the first class units here. A lot of that is the plastics and the composites are produced in the Pacific Northwest. The lay down beds, we were involved in crew rests and crew dividers. And so again, a number of manufacturing disciplines and much needed engineering support and manufacturing support to be able to supply these clients. Detailed components, the electronics, you know, this is something that outside of my skill set, but obviously much needed in an aircraft. And there are a number of electronics companies, circuit board manufacturers. I've had the pleasure of visiting their facilities and seeing what goes into manufacturing these subcomponents. It's one of the benefits of writing about the aerospace industry. We get the opportunity now to visit these plants and see what goes into the manufacturing. And it's eye-opening. Even after my 30 years in manufacturing, seeing this new technology is extremely inspirational.
Dean, I just wanted to let you know. I just wanted to let you know, we've got about a little under 10 minutes left, and we do have one student question. So I just want to make sure that we're able to get to.
All right. I think we're nearing the end here of the
Perfect.
slides, and I'll be real happy to answer any questions.
Perfect.
Here's an example of injection molding. They also get involved in the lighting. And so, again, it's more than just manufacturing a part. It's actually helping to design the passenger experience. Going into the seating again, I'll flip through these. We've kind of already talked about it. Tray tables, subcomponents. And then here's just kind of an image. This is a Emirates interior I was involved in. And, you know, at Boeing, they start taking all of these components, and I've been in an empty aircraft where they start installing the seats on seat tracks. It's quite an interesting opportunity. If you get a chance to go to Boeing over in Seattle, you can actually take a tour, and you might be able to see some of this actual hands-on work, but it's an amazing opportunity to see what goes into aircraft manufacturing. And before we get into the questions, Northwest Aerospace News Magazine is an industry trade magazine free for the aerospace industry. And if you really want to pursue aerospace manufacturing, learn about these companies, to all of the students listening to this presentation, go to northwestaerospacenews.com, all spelled out, and there's a button up there that says subscribe free. And I would be more than thrilled to start mailing copies of our magazine and be able to detail a lot of these companies and share them with you. And so I will go ahead now and take any questions that you might have.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dean. We do have one question that is a student question. It's what types of training and or education is required to work in these fields? And I would just add to that, do you have any advice for students as they're preparing to finish their high school journey of what their next steps could be if they wanted to enter one of these fields?
Well, there are actually a number. There's a program called AJAC, AJAC, and it's the Aerospace Joint Apprenticeship Committee. And what they do is, if you're interested in learning about machining, they partner with a business to take young people and put them through machine shop training. And it's an on-the-job experience. So you actually work part-time for the company as well as then attend class through AJAC. And anybody that's interested in learning about AJAC or wants an introduction, I'd be more than happy to facilitate that. You can send an email to dean@northwestaerospacenews.com, and I can connect you with the right people there. But there are apprenticeship programs. Boeing has an apprenticeship program. Even contacting the manufacturers and talking to them about your interest. Sometimes it's an assembly job that you're working on the floor that they will train you at a facility, and you can then work your way into an engineering position or another career type opportunity within that organization. And so I would just, if there's some place in this whole scheme of manufacturing that interests you, talk to some of the businesses. The first interaction I had with companies wasn't to go find a job from a manufacturing standpoint. It was to learn about them. So a lot of times they're very excited to be able to share what they do and what it takes to become a member of their team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just add to that, that the Idaho Manufacturing Alliance and Forging Futures Idaho are happy to be used as a resource for all of the students that are here today. So feel free to reach out to us, and we'll hopefully be able to make some connections between you and folks that are in the industry as well. So feel free to reach out to us. I'll have Noe put the Forging Futures email in the chat for you. And if anybody else has any questions, feel free to chat them in. I don't see anything currently coming through. Let me look.
One thing I will say, having my hands in so many different projects on so many different aircraft, the feeling you get when you walk on an airplane and you making your way to your seat and you're able to say, hey, I had a hand in that part. I had a hand in that part. I helped design that part. we make these parts. That's exciting to know that you have a hand in that kind of an influence in a career position.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for going into detail about all of that, because there are so many parts and pieces involved in the making of an aircraft that you wouldn't think of necessarily. You think it's all just the intricate computer work, or so there's a lot of career opportunities within one aircraft creation. So
Boeing is in the process right now of deciding what their new generation aircraft is going to be. Again, it's your industry right now. Boeing has to replace the 737. And so do they do it as a wide body? Is it a single aisle? How many seats? That's all being decided right now. On a current 737, there's over 2 million part numbers on an aircraft. Imagine those 2 million part numbers have to be completely redesigned on a new Boeing aircraft. Huge opportunity from an engineering standpoint, from a manufacturing standpoint. This industry is going to go through a metamorphosis like we've never seen before.
yeah, absolutely. We're just coming up on about 2 minutes till we have to move on to our next session. So Dean, do you have any final thoughts or words you'd like to give the students that are here today?
Well, it's sometimes you can have analysis paralysis. And so if manufacturing as a category is of interest to you, whether it be the engineering side or the hands-on side, jump in with both feet. Talk to the companies, give them a call, say, hey, I'm a student, I'd like to learn more about what your company does, what kind of needs they have and the resources that are required. You may find that you think you want to be involved in plastics and then you evolve into composites. It's an exciting opportunity here in the Pacific Northwest, and you live right in the epicenter of aerospace manufacturing. And so the need is great. The resources to support your careers are there. Jump in with both feet, go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dean. I appreciate your time. And to everybody watching, we're going to head on over to our next session here in about 5 minutes. So join us for our first industry panel of the day. And thank you so much for being here. We're excited to have everybody. Thanks again, Dean.
All right. Thank you. Everyone have a great day.